It just seemed like chaos in the school system. There wasn't a lot of respect for the teachers, and frankly, I don't think there was a lot of respect for the students. Some groups put some stuff out there about us being a cult and Christian nationalists and that type of stuff. If I'm not willing to be part of the solution, then I'm definitely part of the problem. There's no middle ground. There isn't.
Are you interested in innovative education and diversity in school models? Do you see a need for something different to bring about a reformation in our current education system? If so, then you've come to the right place. Join us as we discuss what's trending with unconventional learning models, including microschools, homeschool co-ops, creative learning centers, hybrid school models, and so much more. I am your host, Delina Wallace, president and founder of Wichita Innovative Schools and Educators, also known as WISE. This podcast, Wise and Otherwise, explores what our local hub of education entrepreneurs are doing in Wichita. We will also explore and offer brief introductions to the many local and national organizations that support innovation and education. Welcome to Wise and Otherwise. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Wise and Otherwise today. I have with me Jodi Schlesener. She is in Lawrence, Kansas, and she is opening a brand new school this fall of 2025. It is called Apogee Alpha and Omega. So, Jodi, thank you for being with us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start talking about your reason for starting a school. Let's kind of go back to your past in education and your childhood, and even as a mom educating your children. Kind of set the stage for us. How has this all come about that you've decided that you need to start a school?
Okay, I'll go back to when I was a ninth grader. My parents homeschooled my sisters and I for a semester. And this was in the mid 80s when it was not cool. Nobody was homeschooling. You were weird if you homeschooled. And I always told my parents after that I would never do that to my children. That was just terrible. And then I did my student teaching in the public school system in Topeka, and I actually had to go back and apologize to my parents because I realized that there was no way that my children were ever going to go to public school. That just, even, late 90s, it was rough. Nowhere near what it is today, but yeah. So I ended up homeschooling my 5 children, kindergarten through high school. When my baby graduated in 2020, I kind of felt like, what do I do? I mean, I had been working part-time in our family life insurance agency, and I ended up doing that full-time for a little bit. I then also was a kindergarten teacher for a Christian school here in Lawrence for 2 years. But when we decided to downsize and sell our family business, my son-in-law thought I should just retire, but I just felt like I had more to give and just didn't want to do that. And I started looking into Apogee Strong and applied to be an affiliate with them. And that was last May, so about a year ago. I got accepted and started doing the training, and we're getting ready to launch our school in August. We've got 8 full-time students enrolled and 2 homeschoolers that are going to be joining us on Fridays.
That's great. How exciting. Yeah. Well, what a journey. I mean, to just, go back into your education experience and what worked, what didn't work, what you thought you didn't like when you were a kid, and then see it come full circle. I wonder, do you remember, are there any specific things, or just generally what was happening in public schools back in the 90s even, that made you so determined that you were not going to be sending your kids to public school?
It's probably a combination of things. It just seemed like chaos in the school system. And I did my student teaching in first grade, and you think first grade, can't be any chaos there, but just a lot of kids getting passed on to the next grade that don't really understand anything. They the classes were too big. A lot of these kids needed just some individual one-on-one time. Uh, it just There wasn't a lot of respect for the teachers, and frankly, I don't think there was a lot of respect for the students. I don't know, it just is a bad combination. Um,
Mhm.
it didn't work, and I just knew I didn't want to be a part of that. I I couldn't go along with it. I could do it for a short time, but I was going to sooner or later disagree with something and say something or do something I would probably regret. um,
Yeah.
so
Well,
it's
and
just
now
better not to be a part of that going forward.
sure. And now you will have total freedom to
Hmm.
operate your school in the way that you see would be the best environment for your kids and to serve them well. A smaller, are you imagining or do you envision that your school will always be like a microschool, a smaller kind of one room schoolhouse with all grades? Or tell me what your plan is for
Um,
Apogee.
I think it will be for a while, and if it does get bigger, I mean, we'll just open up a second campus or second studio and go from there. I think kids do better when it's a smaller environment. I mean, just even with homeschooling, when we homeschooled, we were usually done with school by 11 or noon. I mean,
Mhm.
it does not take all day to do that. And then we could focus on stuff that we wanted to do. So, um, yeah, I think that uh, keeping it small, um, you can focus on each individual child and their gifts and their calling. And you can also you can build your tribe and your community um, stronger when it's smaller and you get to know people and just do life with them.
I love that. I love it. And so I wasn't familiar with Apogee before we met, and I looked them up, and it looks really interesting. So it's basically a franchise or a
Mhm.
way to launch. There's several Apogees across the United States. Tell us more about this school model and what drew you to this particular brand of school.
Okay. Apogee was founded by Tim Kennedy and Matt Bodrow back in, it was right after COVID hit. So I think it was around 21. Um, and they were fed up with the fact that, school was closed, or if it wasn't closed and it was open, there were all these regulations that kids had to wear masks. It just was, it's not the same. People need physical touch and closeness. They need to be able to um, see and hear one another, and so they started one down in Texas, and it kind of took off. They opened a second campus right after that, and then last year their goal was to open 50 campuses for the 2024 school year, which they did do. Their goal for 25 was to open another 500. They're not going to hit that. I think we're right at another 50 that are opening in August. But it's a little bit of Waldorf, Montessori, uh, Reggio Emilia type. It's a bunch of different types of teaching all combined into one.
Mhm.
It's learner driven. We do a lot of project based learning. Socratic discussions, entrepreneurship, just life together, pretty
Wow.
much. The kids work on passion projects, and those are projects that they are passionate about, something that they're interested in. So for me, it seemed like the fun way to do school, not any of this rigid, test taking where you have to have all these different sections and letter grades and kids divided up. It was just more of kids get to do it at their own pace, and they can go as fast as they want or as slow as they want, and just have guidance and a lot of outdoor play also, which I think
That's
is
great.
missing in the public school, especially today. These kids need time to just be kids.
Yeah,
um
right. Yeah. Well, when I looked at the website, I was just kind of learning a little bit more about them, and it seems like they are very grounded in conservative values and freedom and patriotism.
yes.
I am very strong leaders. And don't they also invest in parents in kind of being that strong leader for their children in the next generation?
Yes, all of the Apogee students, their parents have the opportunity to go through the Apogee Man or Apogee Woman program, which is a mentorship program. I'm going through it right now just so I kind of know what to expect with the parents going through it. But that's part of their tuition. It's not like we charge extra, add extra onto their tuition. It's just something that Apogee offers to the parents, because some of these parents, um, they haven't even been taught some of the things that, I mean, I think as we go further and further down the road, I mean, even the things that my parents learned, I didn't learn all of that type of stuff, canning and gardening and all that kind of stuff, and trying to get back to the basics of just doing life together and doing it with your kids is
Mhm.
is what Apogee's about. So,
That
um,
sounds great. Well,
yeah.
another thing that I admire about the way you're going about this is you're partnering with a local church there. And tell me about how you found this church and decided, like you wanted to approach the pastor there. And how did that go? How's it been so far with them opening their doors? And I think you said they're giving you the keys here this next
Yes,
month or
actually,
something.
I'm inside the
That's
building right now.
great.
So,
Oh, that's
yeah,
so
I
great.
decided I'd do the podcast here instead of at my home, do it at the school. So, at the
Nice.
church. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I used to drive by this church every day when I would go to work. And after I resigned from teaching at the Christian school, I had asked my dad to if he would help me start a school. And he had said yes. Um, but 2.5 months later, he died. So I didn't really think, I thought that dream probably died too at that time. But 2.5 months after that, I got a check in the mail. I was one of the insurance beneficiaries on his life insurance policy. So I put that money aside because I knew I was going to use that for a school one way or the other. So, and then fast forward a year, and I applied to be an affiliate with Apogee and got accepted. And I thought, I'm driving by this church every day to work. I'm just going to email them and see if they would be interested in letting us lease space from them. And the pastor reached out, and he said yes right away. He said, we remodeled a wing of the church right before COVID had hit to have an after school program. And if we never got to do that. So it's already set up for us pretty much. There's just a few things that we're adding to, but it has been just wonderful to work with this pastor. I don't go to church here, but it definitely, if I didn't have a church body, I would definitely check this church out, because they have just been very, very open and helpful through the whole process. So,
Thanks again for listening to this episode of Wise and Otherwise. We'd like to ask you to take a minute and please rate and review our podcast so that others can learn more about us, and just to continue to show your support for this work that we're doing. It would mean so much. So please, if you're on Spotify or Apple or YouTube, take a minute and give us a good review. Yeah, I love to hear about churches and pastors who are willing to open their doors and allow, something in the mission field of K-12 education to be happening Monday through Friday in their space. Too
Yeah.
often, churches are sitting empty during the week,
Yeah.
and it's like this is mission aligned, or it should be mission aligned with what the church has and discipling and training children in the Lord. And I know you plan to teach them biblical truths, and
Yep.
this is a Christian school as well. So
Yes.
Apogee is the brand or the flavor there, and then you have Alpha and Omega. That's kind of, is that part of the name? Is it a subtitle or?
Well, my dad's first business was called Alpha and Omega, so I did that in honor of him since he's a lot of the reason why I'm even getting to do this. So,
Oh, that is so
yeah,
special. What a way to honor him and to just continue in that dream together as you guys
yeah,
dreamed about doing this. And here you are, and you're
yeah.
starting. But I know it hasn't been easy. It hasn't just been smooth and completely well received with everyone. You mentioned to me, we met last week and had coffee, and you told me a little bit about some of the resistance that's already happening before you've even opened your doors, just with having a sign in the yard at the church. Tell us a little bit about what's been going on there.
Well, I live in a very liberal town. In fact, when the one of the questions on the Apogee application was what's your biggest fear if you end up doing this, and it was the my biggest fear was the city that I live in is very liberal. I don't know that this will be taken well. Um, but we've received a little pushback um, on Facebook. Some groups put some stuff out there about us being a cult and Christian nationalists and that type of stuff. And I let the pastor know as soon as we knew about it, just because I didn't want to cause any problems for them. But it was uh, received very, very well. We got a apology email from one of the people that was involved in the stuff on Facebook, and she went on and corrected her statement or amended it on Facebook. Just so that was a huge plus because I mean our battle is not against flesh and blood. We know
Yeah.
that it's um but sometimes it's hard as a human to not take that personally and not get defensive, but it's not going to help if we do that. So
Yeah.
um the only way to make this better is to show Christ's love. So
Mhm.
that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, and I really love how your pastor had your back and
Yeah.
supported you. The pastor there at the church, and he was like, hey, like he probably, somewhat expected this or prepared himself for this. And was like, it is a risk sometimes when you're starting something like this, especially something that is so countercultural, when there's such a strong agenda that's happening in public schools in particular. Anything that's going to come up against that and to battle against that darkness, we're going to see the resistance. But I appreciate how the pastor that when you mentioned it to him, he was like, it's okay, we're going to deal with this, and we'll, like, he didn't operate in fear or decide to
No.
backpedal and any of that. So yeah, and I imagine there will be, in the years to come, there will be some ongoing confrontations and things that happen, because there always is, between light and darkness.
Yes.
So you also gave me kind of a scenario just to give us a picture of what some of your students are coming from in the public school and why parents are looking for alternatives. Tell us about your one student and her writing assignment that she had.
Okay. We have a student, she's actually the very first student that enrolled, but she's in third grade. She's actually not even in the Lawrence School District, which is even sadder because this happened in a smaller school district right outside Lawrence. But she was given an assignment to write an opinion paper about which Roman god or goddess should have a statue made in their honor. And in her paper, she said that she believed that no Roman god or goddess should have a statue in their honor because she believes in Jesus, and that's being disobedient to Jesus, that you should not have any false idols before you or worship any false idols. And she didn't believe that there should be a statue. Her teacher gave her a 0. She did give her the opportunity to rewrite the paper and choose a god or goddess. And this little girl said, "No, I'm not rewriting it because my belief hasn't changed. So I'm I'm not rewriting it. I'll take the 0." Um,
Wow.
her mom and dad were very supportive of that, and they started looking for an alternative for her for this coming school year, and found out about us right after, just like within a month of that happening, and enrolled. So,
I love it. What a brave girl. What a strong
yeah,
girl, already strong enough in her faith and her convictions. And she wasn't willing to bow, even in, in some ways, people might see this as a small thing, but really this is happening a lot with assignments that
yeah,
students are given. And there are requirements that they have to meet when they're writing a paper. And if it goes contrary to their beliefs, and they refuse to write the paper in a certain way just to get the grade, they're affected, and they have,
yeah,
these negative consequences. But for a parent to see my child's trying to walk out her faith right now, like she's stretching
yeah,
and she's flexing her muscles right now as she's growing in her faith, and for them to come behind her and support her, and then to find the type of environment where she can thrive and she can continue to grow and strengthen her faith. That's so exciting. And I would encourage more families and more parents to consider that. What are your children being asked to do in small ways, even in assignments, or what do they have to avoid talking about, or saying with their friends, or saying in the class, or writing in their paper? Is there anything like that that's happening? And we know that there's
yeah.
and this was, how old was the girl writing this paper?
She's 8.
Okay, this was an 8-year-old.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Well, again, I just think it's so important to have schools where students are going to be able to be in, where it aligns and confirms their faith and doesn't constantly contradict what they're being
right.
taught at home. We talked about what's happening in culture. We talked about the negative impact on our children. And you said something to me that it really stuck with me, but you said, I just feel like I have to. You said you're ready to do something about it. And
Hmm.
to me, I think a lot of parents need to hear this, a lot of teachers, a lot of Christians need to hear this. Like, when do we get to a point personally where we're ready to do something about this? And then I say that if I am not doing something about this and solving the problem, then I am a part of the problem. So how can you frame that up a little bit more, or expand on that?
Yeah, I think I can probably do that. If if I just sit by and I do nothing and I keep which is sometimes my personality, I like to kind of be in my space and not rock the boat. But if I do that, then I'm saying it's okay what's going on. That I'm just being complacent. And if I'm not willing to be part of the solution, then I'm definitely part of the problem. I'm not helping, so I'm not helping a solution come forward. So if I'm not doing that, then I'm part of the problem. I mean, there's no middle ground. There isn't.
Yeah. And what would you say as an encouragement to others that, might see the problem out there? Might they know about it? They see it in the news and they hear about it from their students or their kids when they come home. Um, what would you encourage them to do?
I would encourage them to take a stand. To Your family is worth it. Your children are worth it. They're worth it. just stand up and take a stand. Sometimes when you do that, other people that see that and they're willing to step up with you and join with you and do that. And um, where two or three are gathered, there he is in the midst of us. So um, yeah, I don't want to be silent. I don't want to uh, not work for God's glory. I just feel very drawn to do this. That this is my time to stand up and take a stand and push forward, even if it hurts, even if it's scary. It's going to be that way. But if God's for us, no one can be against us. He's got us. He's got our back. So
That's so great. Yes. And, not everybody would the Lord call to do exactly what you're doing in the same way. But I think for all of us, there is some way that we can be involved in this and that
oh
we
yeah,
can help and we can just be there to provide support for families. It's difficult raising our kids in this day and age. It is
it is.
absolutely, it is a battleground every single day. And so for parents to recognize that, I know that they do, but then to be activated and what am I going to do about it?
Yeah,
And same thing for pastors, what's going on in culture. You know that the children in your congregation and in your community are struggling with their faith. They're struggling with the environment, the learning environment that they're in, with the toxic messaging that they're constantly hearing. So for pastors to step up and say, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do? Am I going to use my space, my facility, having open hands and being willing to get involved. So Jodi, thank you for your obedience and your example to the rest of us. It is so inspiring.
you're welcome. It's been a journey and it's been exciting.
Well, I wish you all the best there in Lawrence, Kansas. I can't wait to come up and visit once you get your students in there
Yeah,
and see what the Lord does as you step out and follow him in faithfulness. So thank you
that'd
for
be
being with
awesome.
us on the show. If our listeners want to learn more about your school, where can they go?
They could go to our website, apogeealphaomega.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, Apogee Alpha Omega on both of those. So, yeah, that's probably the easiest way to find us.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of Wise and Otherwise.
Thank you.